Stand with me if you will, please. I'm going to call a meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Dr. Terry if he will to lead us in prayer tonight.
Let's bow our head, please. Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, your wisdom, and your support as we began this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful decision. Also, help us to grow closer. Now, Lord, fill us with your grace as we make decisions that may affect the students, staff, faculty, alumni, and friends of this college. And then continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of the truth and for the glory of you. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Terry. Any public comments from anyone? If not, we'll move right into the president's report.
I have a few items I'd like to go over with you. Kelly Townsend, if you'll come forward, I think, Kelly? She's going to present a TVCC Excellence Award to the Texas Court Reporters Association. And she's also going to tell you a little bit about our court reporting program. You guys approved that a couple of years ago, and it's really, really done well. And so, Kelly, will you come forward and tell us a little bit about the court reporting program and the Excellence Award?
Everybody good?
Good.
Awesome. All right, so we began this program in September of 2020 with 12 students. That's all we had. We started it with 12 students, and it was great. And in that time period, it's a non-credit program, so there's not a certificate that goes with it. It's differently non-credit. Went forward with 12 students, and this program ended as our non-credit program ended on January 20th, 2022. So it's just now stopped as a non-credit program. We are transitioning this program into a credit program beginning fall of 2022. As we currently stand today, we have 60 students on our waiting list for that program to begin in the fall. We are going to make it a credit program, so it will be a basic certificate. We've got students on that waiting list from all over the United States. Our program has really drawn a lot of interest. I get a lot of phone calls from other community colleges wanting to know how to set theirs up to model after what we have done here. So in so doing, we had 9 students that did complete on January of 2022. It was a total of 772 hours of lecture and hands-on applied courses with a group of really great instructors. And those instructors are local instructors who are court reporters, and they really did a great program. I came up here and watched them one Saturday, and it's just amazing what they are able to do. Y'all may not remember, but you might remember, I don't know. When we introduced this program back at the beginning, when y'all could approve it, we had one of our court reporters in the back, and she took minutes of the meeting. And it was really very interesting because she did it word for word. And so that was one of those interesting things to kind of show, you know, what this is for. So we couldn't have done this without the Texas Court Reporters Association. Their support was instrumental in making sure that we were successful. They provided us with instructors. They provided us with curriculum. They showed us how to make it work. Even so much as, you know, putting us in contact with vendors of who is going to sell us the court reporting machines, because those are not inexpensive by any means. So Without the Texas Court Reporters Association, we wouldn't have had a successful program by any means. So tonight, I would like to present a TVCC Excellence Award to recognize their partnership and contribution to the development of the court reporting program and defining TVCC's vision of 21st century professionals, to Brooke Ingram, who's the Executive Director of TCRA. Oh, okay. Oh, good. That's good. Okay. We are also, because like I said, we had local court reporters who were our instructors, were amazing. They were just amazing. But we had two specifically who really served as coordinators for this program. And they helped us stay in line and keep up with financial aid and do all of the things that we were supposed to do, because this was completely new to all of us. So I would like to present two service awards to Melanie Forbes and Judy Gam, both of them court reporting instructors, for recognizing their commitment and service to TVCC and the education of 21st century court reporting professionals. Pass it down. Here we go. Looking close. And I just want to, just to say my thanks for them. Their support, expertise, and commitment to the students, the instructors, and staff were really important for us as we navigated this new program. We feel pretty secure now in what we've got, which is great. And like I said, we have 60 students on a waiting list who are ready to sign up for the fall semester, and we are trudging forward. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Okay, next on our list was the SAC-CLC Level 2 Baccalaureate Substantive Change from a Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree update. We had a SAC-CLC team that was here last week. I believe it was Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we had 21 standards that we were required to meet, and we met them all. We actually exceeded expectations in all the standards. I've been on probably 25 or 30 SAC-CLC teams in the last 30 years, and very rarely do you ever see a SAC-CLC team that comes from different regions that does not have something that they find wrong. In our case, they didn't find anything. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of Dr. Helen Reed and what she's done over the last 2 years. Very proud of Jason Smith. Very proud of Dr. Spencer Wagley. Very proud of Kristen Spazera and others that will be involved in that process. We will now be offering a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing on the Terrell Health Science Center, and we will actually have graduates at the May graduation ceremony. I'm not sure how many yet, but we will have some BSN graduates at our May graduation ceremony. Those of you who've been here for a while remember me talking about this about 3 or 4 years ago, prior to us even doing anything with the Health Science Center, and now it's happened, and we're very proud of it. So thank you. Thank you for supporting us with that. And I'll tell you, at the exit interview, they stayed in a hotel right across from Buc-ee's, or right beside Buc-ee's there in Carroll. And we joked about Buc-ee's, and they joked about Buc-ee's. They'd never seen one before. And they were from Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida. And they'd never seen a Buc-ee's before. And I asked them, what are you going to remember about Trinity Valley Community College in East Texas? Are you going to remember Buc-ee's? Or are you going to remember what? And they said, we're going to remember your Health Science Center. We've never seen anything as good, as nice as that facility is in all the visits that we've been on. It's something we all should be very, very proud of. And these were professionals in the health science field. These were not just people. These were professionals. So very proud of that. Can't say enough good things about it. And I look forward to being able to have years and years in the future of students of being able to go through our associate degree program and then going ahead and going through the bachelor's program and getting a BSN. The next thing on the agenda was a Board of Trustees District 4 update. Today was the last day for people to be nominated, applications for District 4. That was to replace Paula Kimball. And I think we've had 2 candidates. I believe it was 2 as of Friday. Is that correct, Janine? 2 candidates. And so we have a committee of 3 of our board members that will be meeting with those 2.
We're gonna meet probably 8th or 9th.
Okay, we'll set up a time for you to meet, and we'll send you guys a resume. I think it's Ray and Ron and Jerry
Sure.
are the board committee. And they'll meet and talk to them, and they'll make a recommendation probably at our March board meeting, and then for the full board to make a decision on. Then I want to talk about Northwest Hall renovation update. We're coming along, you know, I knock on wood to say we're coming along on schedule, but I think we really are. We have finished the demolition. We finished the asbestos work that was required to be done. We finished the demo work. We're in the process of finishing the demo work, and we will actually start on the renovation probably sometime next week. So hopefully, again, our target date is July the 5th. That's the beginning of the second 6 weeks of the summer. And so that's what we're shooting for. So we'll see. We have contingency plans if that doesn't happen, but we're shooting for that date, and hopefully it will. So we're moving forward on that, and hopefully we won't have too many setbacks. The next item is workforce in Kaufman County update. We've had several meetings over the last month or 6 weeks. We had a couple of meetings in Kaufman, a meeting in Terrell. We've been meeting with the superintendents, the EDC directors, Chamber of Commerce, individuals over in Kaufman. I think we're making some progress. I think we've also met with Crandall. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave them off. Had a great meeting with the superintendent at Crandall a while back. And I just mentioned earlier, they're doing a $90 million bond in Crandall, and we're included in that as part of their CTE programs that they want to include at Crandall. And so we're very hopeful and working as much as we can to move forward. I know it's a goal, it's all of our goal to have workforce programs, not just dual credit programs. We can do credit programs are a little bit easier to put in, but for our constituency that we have in Kaufman County, workforce programs. And so we're working on that, and I'll keep you updated as we go along. Department of Education program review update, still no word. Still waiting to hear back from them. We are doing some things on our own to get ready for that. I think Dr. Parnell's got some things that we're doing, and but we still have not heard anything back from them. It's been 6 months, but I guess that's the way it goes sometimes with these audit sort of things that you're dealing with. So as soon as we hear back from them, we'll know what we need to do from there, and then we'll do whatever it is that we're required to do. We may have to do some negotiation with them or whatever, but we'll do that when we hear back from them. We did get a letter from them, I think, a while back, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the letter said that we would be hearing from them in 2 or 3 weeks. So it's been 3 or 4 or 5 weeks since then, so I'm not real sure exactly. But hopefully we'll be hearing something from them. And we have a board committee to work with us, help us work on that as well. And as soon as we know something and hear back from them, we'll be able to get to work on that. One thing I didn't put on here, I don't know why I didn't, is 75th anniversary. It's 75 years at TVCC. I left you some information. Mark it on your calendar. We're going to have a celebration on April the 23rd. That's a Saturday. We have a brunch that morning, and we're going to do all sorts of things. We have a time capsule. We have a time capsule that they buried on the 50th anniversary, 25 years ago. We're going to dig it up, and we're going to look at it and see what's in it. And then Mike Peake has already given me some hints about what was in it from 25 years ago. But we're going to do that, and then we're going to bury one. And then we're going to wait 100-year anniversary, which, I don't know, I probably won't be around for that 100-year anniversary, but we're going to put it in the ground in a capsule, and then we'll let somebody else 25 years from now dig that one up, and they can see what we're doing and what we did back in 2022 during that time frame. So I'm looking forward to that. They're working hard on that. They've got a lot of good things scheduled for us. We've got a lot of alumni that will be coming in for that. We've got a lot of alumni that will be participating prior to that in different ways on our website and different things. So I'm looking forward to that as well coming up. The last thing I had on my part of it is the next board meeting is scheduled for the 4th Monday in March, which is March 28th. If anyone, did anyone have any questions about any of this? If not, we can move on.
All right. Item number 4, consider the minutes of January 24th, 22 meeting. Do I hear a motion we approve those minutes? Dr. Terry makes a motion, Jerry Stone seconds the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign, motion carries. Number 5, consider the business financial investment report for December of 2021. All right, David.
Yes, sir.
It's your turn.
Okay. Normally we'll bring up the, file for y'all to look at. Want to go over just a few things. Main thing, as usual, is tuition fees. You'll see that we only show a slight decrease as of December 2021. I do want to point out that before my report writer laid down on me, I looked ahead to January, and we're running about 2% below last year. And I'll talk a little bit more about what this means for HERF when I get to the HERF part, but I do want to point out, and even though indicating that is not, what we had hoped for, if you notice, housing, food service, and bookstore are all ahead of last year. And if you look at January, that continues. And so what I'm hoping when I start drawing some numbers to draw down from HERF is that we may have more that we have to use for tuition, but less, hopefully much less for the other three, is what I'm hoping. The state appropriations, those don't come in equally monthly, but I'll just point out again that y'all recall that we are looking at a $1.6 million decrease for this year and next year. Next page. On expenses, really nothing unusual here. The travel, supplies, and some things like that, equipment, those are up. Many of those are COVID related. You'll see that, and I want to point this out, don't everybody think that we're gonna have $11 million left over, because we won't. $11 million down at the bottom of revenue over expense. December, January are sort of the banner months for cash flow, because you've got, your fall and spring semester, and then you've got all the property taxes coming in. And I'll just point out, if you look at your screen when you have time, you're looking at $9 million in property taxes this month. It jumps to 16 in January. So that 11 million, in comparison to last year, if you add back in the bond payment that we had last year that we don't have this year. So I think we're doing pretty well. We've still got HERF money to draw down. Hopefully that enrollment will go back up. The next page, I'll go through these pretty quickly. Just, as I said, we're doing pretty well with cash.
That's all.
$17 million in cap reserve, and I'll tell you kind of where we're headed on that. Next page, your investments. 17,002 cap reserve. And the next page, the detail, we didn't have any money going out this month. We had money going in, the usual budget transfer. I know David always asks me about this. After the audit, Stephanie transferred another $6,688,554 to cap reserve in January. As I told you before, I like to wait till after the audit. Occasionally you'll get an audit adjustment that may change that number, but that's going to put us in the neighborhood of $24 million when all that's there. And of course, we're adding another $161,000 every month as our budgetary transfer. So kind of gives you all some idea of where we're headed there. Anybody have any questions about those? The last page before we talk a little bit about HERF is the over 25,000. We bought some software, had the usual payroll transfers. Northwest dorm. So, does anybody have any questions? If not, let me go to the next page on her. This is as of January 28th. This is what we've got left out of the institutional, and you'll see that number again. On the student, in January and February, we sent out most of that money. That $23,000 number actually, as of February, drops to $6,000. Now, the way that's a little different than the institutional, because you send out all these thousands of checks, and what's going to happen over the next 3 months is some of them are going to come back. And some of the students we won't be able to find as hard as we're going to try. So probably around April, when the 90-day time frame for those checks is up, we'll get together with our counterparts and Phillips Group, they'll probably re-award whatever money is left after we kind of go through that process. And this is the first time we've done anything this big, and it was quite a chore. But you know, that number's been sitting there for months. I just wanted y'all to know we did finally get it out the door. And that's the process. You'll see a little bit of money there. You may see it go back up some as those checks come in and we can't track those students down. Does anybody have any questions about that particular piece of it?
When you say re-award, I mean, how do you get approval? You gotta go through to do that. I mean, you've got the money to come back. So what triggers that?
Well, again, as a check comes back, we're going to try to figure out, is it a bad address? Can we track the student down? But there's going to be a certain percentage of them we just can't find. And whatever that number, I mean, they didn't cash the check, so the money's not really gone. So there's nothing to get approval on, so to speak. I mean, we'll draw the money down whenever, the money leaves the bank.
My hope would be to get every dollar possible out to the students. And I don't want to have anything left over when the deadline hits in May. So we'll make every effort to get every dollar out.
We'll just find additional students that we didn't use before, or we'll add on to students that we've already sent some to before. But we'll find some additional students to be able to use all of them.
You got all kinds of things. I mean, direct deposits can get rejected, and you got to cut them a check. Checks come back, either just nobody cashes the bad address. Y'all are bankers, y'all know the drill. But, so I just want everybody to understand that we're not done, but we've got to get this done before around May the 15th or so. So the next page is just to kind of give you guys an update on how we spent the institutional side. I have not drawn down any additional revenue. We've had, with that last rush of COVID, we did buy a bunch more tests. We had some other HERF expenses that we have drawn down. And you see the $4,949,000. On the last page is kind of talking about the money we've got left over, $4,685,000. And my projections on the next page, and I wanted to point these out in line of what I told you about tuition. These are the budget numbers for this year for what we thought we would use HERF money. You see the 1,003,000, the 578, housing, so on. As soon as I start drawing those down, and I'll probably start on the fall semester here pretty quick, I'll show you those changes, and those numbers, at least for tuition, are probably going to go up. I'm hoping for the others that it goes back down, because as you can see, we have enough to cover this year, but we will run short depending upon what happens with enrollment. We will run short on the 22-23 fiscal year. But as I've said, the number that we're short, I'm not as concerned about it the way property taxes are going up right now. And I just want y'all to be aware of, every semester these numbers are going to change. I don't know what's going to happen in the summer. We're still down a little bit in the spring. But I will compare those numbers to the pre-COVID numbers, and that's the money we will draw. It's not against last year. Last year was COVID as well. Does that make sense to everybody? It's kind of hoping they don't give us any more HERF money.
Don't say that. By the way, we start our funding cycle tomorrow. So we will be, our contact hour funding generation will start tomorrow, March 1st, and it will go through February the 28th of 2023. So we've geared up, we are gearing up. Our second 8 weeks looks better, much better. And we're hoping that COVID will not be a factor in the summer and the fall of next year. So we'll see. But also, by the way, we have our in-service training program at TDCJ in Palestine is going full speed because they're having to do it. So we're doing that. We're doing it in person, but we're doing it, and we're doing some online, but not the in-service training. So we're looking better going in tomorrow with our fact that those programs are out there and they're open. As you know, we lost $500,000 a year because the in-service program at TDCJ was not functioning during COVID during that last cycle. So we're looking better right now. At least I'm optimistic.
That's all I've got.
Anyone have any questions of David? If not, I hear a motion that we approve the business financial investment report for December of 2021. Okay, Steve makes a motion, Jerry seconds the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Number 6, consider and discuss approval of the fiscal year 22-23 college calendar.
Board, this is something we do every year in February, and that is we have our calendar for next year. It's a normal calendar cycle. We have a 16-week cycle in the fall semester, 16-week cycle semester in the spring semester, and a 12-week cycle in the summer. In addition to that, we have a 8-week 1 and 8-week 2 cycle that will be going on as well. And so we'll be enrolling students both for all long semester and 8-week cycle 1 and 8-week cycle 2 in the fall and the spring. So it's pretty standard. Once you put the time frame in there for your classes and your class schedule and you meet your requirements for that, everything else kind of falls into place. So if you have any questions about that, Dr. Spazira and all the VPs did a good job of putting that together. They've looked over it and they've approved it, and I think we're good to go with it. We actually, didn't we talk to somebody at the coordinating board as well?
We did. We always talk to the coordinating board to make sure that we know what our magic number is in terms of when we can start classes. And then we have a certain number of hours that we have to meet, and all of that's factored into the calendar.
Good job. We would ask for approval.
Any comments? I hear a motion to approve the calendar, college calendar. Rondé makes a motion. Dr. Charlie seconds that motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Number 7, discuss the TVCC Police Department's racial profiling report.
Again, this is something that we are required to do every year. The Texas Commission on Law Enforcement requires it because we do have a police department. And if you had a chance to look over it, we had 5, I guess, reports, or we had 5 people that were stopped during this last year. So it wasn't a big deal. And it tells you their profile in here. Dr. Parnell was involved in getting that done for us, as well as Chief Newby. If you have any questions, it's not really a whole lot to it, but it's required to be done. So we did it, and we'll report that we did it, and it's required that we let you approve it. And so we're asking you to approve this racial profiling report.
We're obviously not paying the police department based on the fines that they're making.
Okay, under Dr. Phil's recommendation, I hear a motion, we approve the police profiling report. Dr. Terry makes that motion, Jerry Stone seconds that motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item number 8, consider and discuss contingency fund budget adjustments.
This is another one that David is going to do. I think we talked about this maybe before at one of our previous. What we're trying to do there.
Sure, board, this is something that I will continue to provide. I'll give you a history. You can see this on your screen, I'm sure. The one thing we've already approved out of contingency was the financial aid contract, and that's on here. The two things that I'm asking you to do, speaking of COVID, these two items were budgeted in the prior year: instruction view boards and esports computers. They were budgeted last year, approved last year, and ordered last year, but because of supply chain issues, we could not get them here last year. We have received them in the current year, which makes them a current year expense. So what I'm asking is to pull money out of contingency to fund these this year. The money that was left over from last year, as I just indicated, is already gone to cap reserve. That was part of the excess. And so this is the way I'd like to deal with these type of things, and just be transparent with what we're doing. There wasn't anything we could do about it. Supply chain, everybody's heard about supply chain issues. There wasn't anything we could do. So I would ask that you would approve the budget adjustments from contingency.
I move to approve the budget.
Okay, David makes motion to approve it. Do I hear a second? Jerry Stone seconds the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Number 9, consider and discuss room rates for 22 and 23.
We really feel like we need to do some more work on this. We didn't provide probably all the financial background and information that we need to provide. So we'd like to table this item until the March agenda. And that way we can work with some of you board members to help us put together a financial pro forma on what each of our, not just the Northwest dorm, but all of our dorms are doing. And we'd like to look at it, what they were doing pre-COVID, because we think we're going to be going back to the room rate occupancy, hopefully in the fall, where we were pre-COVID. We're hoping to increase our band. We're hoping to increase our cardettes. We're hoping to increase our foreign students. We're very limited in number of foreign students that we were able to get in this time. So with that, we're hoping to go back to pre-COVID. So we'd like to table it and then talk about it again with some additional information at our March board meeting.
Do I hear a motion we table it? Ron, Dr. Charlie, and Ron seconds it. Number 10, consider and discuss. Did I call and vote on that? No, I didn't. Dr. Charlie made the motion, Ron second motion. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item number 10, consider and discuss bank depository.
Again, David's going to talk a little bit about that. David?
Board, as y'all heard me say the last couple of years, as we're still implementing our ERP, I'd like to still propose that we continue with Prosperity Bank, to not make a change there. There's no change in interest rates. They're basically doing it for free. So all we would incur would be hundreds of dollars in newspaper ads, and they've done a good job, and I'd like to continue with them for another year and ask that you approve that.
I'll make a motion. Second.
David Bunk makes motion.
No, Dr. Charlie made a motion. I'll second.
Okay, Dr. Charlie made the motion to approve the depository, and David seconded the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item number 11, consider and discuss policy updates.
Board, these are what we were talking about at dinner when we were looking at the online policy manual, which includes the local policy and the legal policy. And as I mentioned to you at dinner, the local policy is separate than the legal policy. The local policy is approved by the board. It is recommended by TASB that it be approved, or it wouldn't be there. It's also recommended by the coordinating board in Texas Higher, the coordinating board and SAC CLC. So the VPs, the executive cabinet, myself, we've all, Janine, we've all gone through these multiple times. Quite honestly, we don't go through the legal. I mean, the legal was 200 and something pages long. We don't go through the legal. We deal with what we think we need to deal with it, but we go through each local policy because you're going to approve that. You didn't have a choice on approving the legal, so it's out there. And if we need to look at it, we will. But we are asking that you approve the local policy that's recommended by, again, TASB, SAC CLC, and the coordinating board. I would, before you do that, I would like to point out on page 1 of 1, BBD local, I think this is the first one on your list that you have here. It has orientation, and this is board members orientation and training. This is in the local policy, and this basically tells community colleges that we have to have some sort of orientation training for our new board members, which we're going to talk about next, again, in our board policy manual. It's here that we are required to do it. It doesn't tell you how you have to do it, but it tells you you've got to do it. And so then below that, on that same page, 1 of 1, it tells you that you have to have annual training plan. That's an annual training plan for your board of trustees. And again, this is SAC CLC really is driving this. Just like they require that you evaluate yourself every year now, but they didn't do that 5 or 6 years ago. They require now that you have a training plan. And in a few minutes, we're going to go over that training plan. They don't tell you what kind of training plan that you have to have. They just tell you got to have one. And so we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes on the next agenda item when we talk about the board manual, not the board policy manual, but the board manual. I just wanted to point that out to you because I'm going to be bringing that up again in just a few minutes. If you have any questions about any of these local policies, I'd be happy to answer. If I can't answer it, we have VPs here and others that can answer questions for you. Or if you look over these sometime, I don't know why you would, but at night sometime or whatever, if you look over these and you have a question, then you're welcome to please contact us and we'd be happy to explain why it's probably put in there. One more thing, cybersecurity, it's in here. That's required. Cybersecurity is no longer, it's not an option. It is a requirement.
We've been doing that.
I know you have, and you'll be required to do it again. And I think Lonnie's going to be sending something out in the next couple of weeks, asking for everybody, all faculty, staff, adjunct, everybody to do cybersecurity training between now and May 31st, I think is what Lonnie said he was going to be doing. So you'll be hearing about that one again. Everybody has to do it. That's everybody in the state of Texas has to do it. So.
I'm gonna be fishing. That's one thing I learned out of last one.
Anybody have any questions about any of those? If not, we would ask for approval of a local policy.
Do I hear a motion? Mike makes a motion to approve it. Terry seconds the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. All right, number 12, consider and discuss TVCC Board of Trustees Policy Manual.
Okay, here's where we're going to talk about those 2 items that I just mentioned to you that you just approved under local policy. This is, I think I've not done a very good job of explaining this to you over the last 2 or 3 times that we talked about it. This is really just this is a Board of Trustees manual. It's really not a policy manual. Policy manual is online. You saw that earlier tonight. This is just a manual that we are required to do. And it basically it's just a list of orientation sessions and a list of standard common local policies that board members can refer to without having to go online. Procedures, yes, procedures, just standard procedures. Now, is everything in here that's on the online version of the policy? No, it's not. It would be probably 8 times that big if it were to be. These are just the standard ones. These are just the ones, procedures that you would need to know. For example, if you have a board member that resigns, it talks about that in here. If you have a board member that, just every orientation, everything that you could probably commonly need to know, hopefully we think is in here. Now, I was asked earlier, I think it was back in December or November, to tell you the difference between what's in here and what is required or not required. And so in the memo that I provided for you, the first thing that is in here that it is required is a TVCC orientation for new board members. And so what we've done here is we've gone through and we've listed what a new board member would be required to do on the bottom of your memo on day 1, day 2, and day 3. And those don't have to be consecutive days. Those could be day 1 could be in 1 month, and day 2 could be in 2 months, or what, etc. Those are what a new board member would be required to do. Now, again, the local policy doesn't tell you. It tells you got to have an orientation for new board members, but it doesn't tell you what. And so we're recommending this as the orientation for new board members. And that's, again, required. It's required that you have it. It just doesn't tell you that what you're required to do.
Jerry, who is we?
We being what I just told you, the local policy. The local, I just read you.
Who is we that is recommending a 3-day orientation?
Me.
You. Okay,
Yes,
that's
me.
what I need.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't really realize.
No,
This
that's
is
what I need to know.
this is what I am recommending. And this is a common best practice. Doesn't have to be. You can change that if you'd like to, but it's me.
You said we, so I need to.
Well, I don't know. I say we a lot.
That's okay.
The second item on the agenda for this board policy, the Board of Trustees manual, is it's required that we have, as I just mentioned to you, you just saw, that we require an annual plan, an annual professional development plan. What I am recommending is that the Board of Trustees have at least one workshop annually with an agenda jointly determined by the board and the college president to discuss the institutional goals and other things. That, to me, is pretty common practice among most community colleges, and that would be our plan. Our plan, that we would be meeting the requirements that we just approved and has been approved by local policy, if that's what you decide to do. Now, if you want to do more than that, we can do more than that. If you want to do less than that, we could do less than that. But I believe that is a sufficient professional development activity, and we can do that in August prior to the board meeting in August, and we can talk about budgets, and we can talk about goals for the next year, and we can talk about the previous year and whether we met those goals or not. We can do all sorts of good things, and that could be at your choosing. And it doesn't have to be all at one time. It could be over a period of time, or it could be all at one time, whatever you chose to do. The third item that I have in the memo is not a requirement. And this is certainly totally up to you. This is not in local policy. This is best practices, but not in local policy. And that is, board members will serve on at least one committee consisting of a budget committee, facilities committee, and the strategic planning committee, and or special board committees. Committee meetings will meet on an as-needed basis. Again, you can mark that off your list if you don't want to approve that. I mean, I've always felt like that we should have committees. And again, I'm making the recommendation that we have these committees, and we have board members that can serve on each one of these committees or special committees, like we do with the other things that we've been doing with budget committee and other things. It's not required. It's no local or legal requirement. It's just common practice. So what I'm asking tonight, and if you is that we approve this Board of Trustees manual to include these 3 items that I've just put in your memo. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Jerry, I just have this one, and obviously, being a seated member, it doesn't have anything to do with how I personally feel about it, just from the standpoint of if you have to cross that bridge, how you gonna handle it? You know, the statutes provide who may legally serve as a board member of the community college, the process to go through, and the requirements have to be met. And as you've done a good job of making distinctions between statutory and local, you know, what local is, in my mind, at this level, is what you might consider you'd like for it to be, but not necessarily what the law requires. So if you have someone who meets every requirement legally and says, I'm gonna run for the board, they do, they're elected, and then, well, let me stop and ask a question there. If they ask you, what does the law require of me? What do I have to do? Are you going to tell them that they have to undergo this training, that training, et cetera, as it relates to local? Or are you going to say, no, this is a best practice that we would like for you to do? Then the second part of that question is, they're elected to the board, and you say, okay, we're ready for your 3-day training session. And that person says, gosh, I don't think I want to do that. I'm suggesting they don't have to do that. Law doesn't require it. What are you going to do? What's this board?
Let me
gonna
answer
do?
your first question first.
Sure.
And that would be that if it's local policy, then I will follow, as I always try to do, any kind of local policy. And so if we get a new board member and we approve this, then I will follow this process. If you don't want me to follow that process, then you can vote against it.
Has nothing to do with that. That's not.
Now, if they don't do that, then what you're asking me is what do we do if they do not do that?
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly do not know. I do not know. I do know that if we don't have a policy, then we're violating SAC COC. We're going to be hit with that. I do know that. But whether or not a board member is required to do
I'm not
it,
taking issue with your recommendation.
Yeah.
I'm simply asking a question and making the distinction that
Yeah.
it's fine to say this is what we would like for the world to look like. But if it hasn't been legislated, this body has no ability to legislate against one another. It's not provided for.
it's true.
And we just need to be clear that we stop short of telling anyone that you have to do anything other than what the statutes require. Because to do so, I think would present a liability for the college should it come to that. Don't think it will, hopefully. And you'll have people that say, sure, how about the next 3 days in a row? But if not, I'm just saying, be cautious. You can't make them. I don't believe you can make them. I think that's your answer. You said I don't know, but I think we do know.
Anybody have any other questions? Did I answer your both questions?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
I have a problem with a mandatory 3-day orientation.
For new board members?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been on the board 17 years. Many of you have been on there longer than I have. We've got a fairly high functioning board without a 3-day orientation.
Now, this is for new board
I
members only.
understand that. But all of us were new board members. We didn't go through a 3-day orientation. Everybody's got a different skill set. I mean, Terry's great at one thing, David's great at one thing. Everybody's got different experiences. I'm not against anybody doing anything you listed. I mean, it's fine. But to tell somebody, you know, it's expected for you to go follow this and do this 3-day orientation, I think is, if it's not required, if it's not legal, I think it's excessive. Is it bad to do all those things? No, it's fine. But I think it's just a little bit of an unreasonable thing based on, I think it creates a problem we don't have. We've got a board that has, in my experience, has been highly effective. We have not had problems. So to say, you know, we're going to force this down a new person's throat, I struggle with it. I don't struggle with any particular thing in it. There's nothing wrong with anybody. I think you should provide that for anybody that will do it or wants it. But I think to require it doesn't feel good to me.
So, Dr. King, in that area, in being sensitive to what Dr. Charlie is saying, and I get it. I obviously have some concerns that when you get off in this area of what you really can't do, you don't need to be suggesting that you can do it. You might wish you hadn't, but you would hope not. But I'm also wanting to be sensitive to the things that you feel impact the review by SACSOC, et cetera. And again, I think we both said that we're not saying there's anything bad. I mean, I guess one can always argue that the more the better, maybe 30 days instead of 3. So what really, once you go beyond what is statutorily required, are you getting into an area that obviously the state didn't intend that you would do that. They didn't mandate. So and I asked at one of the sessions, and I believe this is the third time we've been talking about the same thing.
No, it's the 4th.
Fourth time. Okay.
We started talking about it in September.
Give me a break.
Okay. I can count them for you.
Okay. All right. The 4th time then. So it is time to put it to rest. But I don't want to suggest a complete lack of insensitivity to your recommendation on much of anything. In particular, if it relates to evaluations, that you certainly have much greater depth of knowledge, and you've been through a lot of them. I think you mentioned 30 of them over the years. So how do we, how do we get there? I asked the question in one of those sessions, well, is this driven more by administration? Because I really need to see a board member, especially given where the vast majority here have been senior for a long time, came up with these notions. But you said, no, that's not true. Your words, that's not true. It's not driven by administration. No. So is it getting closer to accurate to say that it is driven by the administration's recognition that it affects our evaluation, et cetera? Do you truly believe that? I mean, is it checklist?
It impacts our SACSOC accreditation.
Yeah.
And we're going to be accredited. We have a 5-year plan that's coming up, and we have to include something like this in that 5-year plan. And so it does impact our 5-year SACSOC accreditation. And maybe in your memo here, it says, we're talking about the orientation now. It says the board and the college president shall provide an orientation for new board members within the calendar year of their election to assist them in understanding the board's function, policies, and procedures. That's legal policy. That's not local. So that's something that's required. Now, it doesn't matter to me if you want to appoint a committee to determine what that new board orientation needs to be, or we just need to have a new board orientation of some sort.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
And I don't disagree that there's wrong with anything you've written down here.
Okay.
But I do think to just create a problem that I haven't seen,
Well,
because we haven't had a 3-day orientation and traveled to Palestine and, done all those things.
you tell me then what you would like or to do in terms of an orientation, and I'll be happy to put it down there however you like.
If you said orientation might consist of these
I could
things.
probably do that.
Okay.
And get by with that.
But I struggle a little bit
Okay.
with telling the new board member that they've got to do this structured when we haven't had. I've not seen a problem.
Well, talk to your 2 new board members and see what their thoughts are. I mean, we have 2 new board members. What are you guys?
I say this, Mike, go ahead, you.
Well, I could say a lot on this subject, and it would probably make most everybody in here mad. So I'll try to refrain from doing that. But when I was elected, and I was elected to this position, I wasn't appointed, I was elected. I got not one phone call from anybody that sits at this desk. None of you called me, welcomed me. And I'm not complaining. Please, I'm not throwing rocks. I'm just saying there was no welcome. There was no, what can I help you with? If it wasn't just for my direct, blunt, outgoing personality, I would be sitting here with zero information. But because I've got that personality to go out and do that, I got with our president. I sit with Ray. I went to CAT meetings. I got our webinars. I did that myself. I'm suggesting that this is very important because, and again, not throwing rocks, we do not treat our new board members very well. We treat them like stepchildren. Well, let me ask you, Charlie, and again, I'm not throwing rocks.
No,
Have you ever reached out to me since I've been on this board?
I have,
You have?
I have.
Could you share with me about what?
Well, it had to do with your health.
Well, medical, I'm talking about regarding board
Well, I wouldn't
issues.
have done it had it not been.
Okay, I'm talking, and that was last month.
I did, well,
Okay.
okay, whatever.
What I'm saying is, we don't do that. This board does not do that. We do not take care of our own. And we need some type of procedure that we can take these new board members and go through a process with them, letting them know the expectations of what to expect. I can say this. Terry is an educator, and I'm not trying to speak for him, and I won't, but I'm going to use him as an example. Probably comes in here and has no idea about these financial documents at all. He's an educator. And a procedure like this will put David face to face with these new board members, training and teaching them how to understand these financials, because we don't know. I've been in business 45 years. I was very familiar with everything that I've seen. Everybody's not going to be that way. And so I think that we've got to give our new board members every opportunity to be successful. And I don't think we do that. I don't think we give them opportunities to be successful. I think we throw them in here to the lion's den and say, good luck. That's what's happened with me. Again, I've kind of got that fight back personality, and it's been okay for me, but most people don't have that. This is so minute. I guess I'm astonished that anybody would even push back at this a little bit, that we wouldn't want our board members completely in tune. This sets up that they're meeting our vice presidents. They're spending time with them. They're going over these areas. They're visiting these other campuses, meeting the provost at these other campuses, going through some training material, teaching them and training them how to be a good board member. And that's really what it's all about. It's not a force issue. It's to help these new board members be a functioning and a literate board member. Because Charlie, we're just not there with that. Not with these new guys. I think this board is more than just a few hours a month at a board meeting. And I think we get stymied and hung up at it, that we think we've done our duty to show up on the fourth Monday night of the month. And I think this goes much, much deeper than that. And I think this will help these new members. We're not asking anybody that's sitting in this room to go through this process. We're just saying we want to bring these new board members up to some type of a standard that they can understand what's going on in these meetings when these meetings are taking place.
Well, I'm certainly not against anything that was listed here. I'm against the requirement of 3 days.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
The bankers right here at the end. Do you require your bank employees to go through any additional training the state doesn't require?
Mike, the answer is obviously yes.
Sure.
And they're also paid for undergoing that.
So let's don't make this about money.
Well, everything is about money one way or another, so it's unavoidable. Now, you asked the question, so I'm completing an answer. That's one large difference. As it relates to your commentary about not having received phone calls, well, I didn't get a phone call either. I doubt that anyone else on the board got.
Terry got a phone call. You know who from?
Okay. Well, of course you. And that's
Immediately.
great. I'm glad you
Welcome.
did.
What can I do for you?
I'm glad you did that, but I'm simply saying to you is that somehow or other, these guys, and when she was in that seat, Paula Kimball as well, turned out to be awfully good board members. Not saying there's a thing wrong with it. Here's where the huge difference is. You're trying to mandate, you're trying to plug in a policy and say, this is what you have to do. So don't say it isn't about force, it is exactly about force. You're trying to give it that effect of that you're inadequate unless you do it this way, the way we've outlined. We both said here that there's nothing wrong with anything in there. Offer it up, encourage it. It sells better that way. With our employees, some of them, the only way they get that training is because they're being paid, because we have to force it upon them. We don't have a choice. It's kind of like this statutory stuff. Not even point in talking about it. We have to accept it. Someone else handed it down. So I think I could boil this down to saying, I get what you're wanting to do. I'm not even doubting the sincerity of what you're wanting to do, but you're going about it the wrong way. Recognize them for what they are. Legally seated board members in good standing when they're elected or when they're appointed. It makes no difference. One's not superior to the other. And for that matter, other than Dr. Terry, I think everybody here may have been appointed and has since been elected several times. So I'm just strongly encouraging the board to say, dispense with this of you shall. And there was a lot of the earlier language. I think that's been toned down a bit. Thank whoever's responsible for that. But it still is in that vein of that, here's what you're going to do when you want to schedule those 3 days. This is in our board policy. And unless you make a full disclosure, you're being dishonest when you don't tell them that you really don't have to do that. We'd like for you to do that. We think you'll benefit. We think you'll be a better board member for yourself. You'll feel better about your service and you'll better benefit the community. That's all well and good. But stop this of it's in our policy. You have to do this. That's all I'm opposed to.
What is your
Well,
thoughts?
It's not the getting it done. The getting it done is okay.
David, there's no mandate from me at all. I'm not trying to mandate anything.
It's right
You know
here.
what I would like to do? I would like to have us to have a functioning board that is knowledgeable in what's going on in this room. That is my entire goal.
You have
Not
a
a
functioning board. You have a board that has played no small part in moving this college to a place, whereas our capable financial administrator can tell us, and our good president can tell us, is out of the 50 community colleges in Texas, may be unsurpassed if you took all the metrics across the whole board. So, Mike, you cannot tell me that this is not a functioning board. This is a board that's not functioning exactly the way you want it to. Doesn't make the board wrong, you may be. Try to consider that.
I have.
Okay.
Let me say,
Well, trust me, I'm not trying to change your mind. That's only for you.
Thank you for that.
one of the things that I stated, and I stick to that in my
Terry, can
Right.
you turn that thing on? Somehow or other, the bouncing up and over and back down is not.
turn it, what are you referring to? This, my test. Can you hear me?
It's on.
It's on. But in my opening prayer, I said, allow us to grow stronger as a group. And whatever that calls for. But I want to say, all of us here have different personalities. Very much so, just from the things that I've learned since I've been here. I enjoyed my day with Dr. King as he was sharing with me the facilities that was very enlightening for me. Now, whether I didn't get an opportunity to spend in Palestine, nor did I get my lunch, but we spent a wonderful time in orientating me as a new member. And I think as a new member, whether this is mandatory, I have an open mind that I want to grow as a member. So whatever that takes and whatever that calls for, I'm open for that. Now, if that's something that I need to initiate, I know it's here in front of me. Dr. King, is it possible that we could do this without being a demand? It's optional for me. And my personality as being in school, I remember my coach gave me the nickname Easy Money. And those of you that has met me, I think you probably could tie that. I'm easy, understanding, and whatever my role may be, I can adapt to my personality or any personality here. But it's that we work together for one common goal, whatever that mission may be, from our leader, our president, then my philosophy, idea, how can we help spearhead that to be one? And whatever that calls for, it's going to take all of us working together and not so much of a, if this 3 days is asked of me, as much over the last 40 years, as much staff development and training that I've been through, man, I will wink my eye and I'll be happy. 3 days, or let's go when we need to. But that's just me, and I don't see any problem with that with these orientation days. I think as a new board member, I would welcome that. But that's just how I feel. I can't speak for anybody else, but I don't see a problem with it. But
Well, again, let me just say, the legal policy says that we have to have a new orientation for new board members. It does not say what that has to be. I think I'm repeating myself again, but you can tell me, tell me what you. We don't have to obviously do this tonight. This is our 4th try. We'll go for 5. We do need to do this before SAC CLC. We have a report to do in June, and this needs to be done before that.
Well, I think we just need to call the vote on this one.
I agree with you, Charlie.
And you know, I don't have anything to argue over. I have no problem with anything on here.
Okay.
And I think I've communicated that clearly.
Okay.
I do have a problem with mandatory, or, you know, that the expectation is. And I'm certainly disappointed my board experience has been what he hoped it might be. Mine has been.
No, mine's been wonderful. Let me say this, my board experience has been great. I mean, I feel like I was responsible for that.
Okay.
So
now I'll say this, I've not been looked upon, unless you guys are looking at me with a stank eye, as a stepchild. I feel that I
I've arrested you
received.
like everybody else.
Yes, but I mean, I appreciate those that reached out when I came on board as a appointee. Mike did, Ray, Jerry, and everybody else that reached out. Ron was on the phone with us, interview, and I feel good about all of those personalities that's reached out and made me my wife, and I feel welcome being a part of the board. That's been a great experience thus far. And I can't put a shade on that. It's what it is. It's been a positive experience.
I would ask for a motion then to approve the Board of Trustees manual that includes on your memo, item number 1, a TBCC orientation for new board members, and item number 2, annual plan to address the training needs of board members. And we'll talk about the committee structure later on if you want to. But I would ask for at least those two, because those two are required. I don't really have a lot of choice.
Why would we eliminate number 3 though?
It's up to you guys. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think we should have standing committees. But I mean, we can talk about that. That's not a requirement. The first 2 are requirements. The third one is not.
Now, just to be clear, the first 2 are not required as written. It's required to have an orientation.
Right.
And it's not required to have a 3-day orientation.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
I'll say that. I'll say that over and over again.
Okay. So, and I'm not opposed to having an orientation.
Okay.
I'm opposed to the 3-day mandatory.
Let's have a vote.
So what are you asking for?
I'm asking for a motion to approve the Board of Trustees manual with the orientation, new board orientation plan as set out, and as a board annual plan, training plan as set out.
I got that, and I'm actually, no issue with number 3 either.
Okay, then we'll add number 3 in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
but back to that first one, that hasn't satisfied anything other than trying to get a motion on the floor to vote for a mandatory orientation. Am I hearing that correctly?
We're required to have a mandatory orientation. I don't.
understand, but you're 3-day.
Yes, yes. If you don't want to
If
do
you
that,
said as recommended, as you have recommended.
That is
that's
correct.
3-day.
that is correct.
Well, I'm opposed to the mandatory aspect of it.
You're opposed to the 3-day. The mandatory is required.
I mean, the 3 days.
Okay, you're opposed to the 3-day. I certainly don't mind going back and getting input from other board members and determining what you would like to have. If you don't like the 3-day, if you'll tell me what you would like to have, we got to have something.
Can I recommend something?
Well, some of us have said that from the get-go. So, we've gone at it 4 times and we were at that place the first time. And it was back to, my feeling at that time was be really, really careful of what you appear to mandate that you have no authority to mandate. And I've maintained that all the way through. So there's been no inconsistency there.
We do have authority to mandate. It is legal policy. It is mandated. The 3-day is not.
Mandate,
Yeah.
3 days.
Okay, yeah. So if you'd like to come back in March, and if you'd like to, between now and then, come up with a different orientation, new board member orientation, we have to have a new board member orientation plan. If you'd like to come back in March and come up with a different plan than this, I'm certainly open to that.
Steve over here has something to say.
I'd like to say something. I feel like we're kind of chasing rabbits when we're going down right now. I think it's mandatory that we have a program of orientation.
Correct.
And I feel like the items that are highlighted here are good essential items that we all have to do. I too share that state mandate does not say that a board member who's duly elected or appointed has to do this. But I feel like in any organization, it's good that you learn it, whether it's by sitting and listening and talking to members of the board that are already here, or reaching out or being reached out to. And I am proud of this board and how it's functioned over the years. I haven't been here as long as a lot of them, but I do think that we learn it. But I think if we could make this it's mandatory that we have a program, and the suggestion was made a while ago that these items here could be recommended, and the orientation program would include this. But as long as it's understood, you don't have to go to a 3-day deal. In fact, I'm a Presbyterian. We have a committee to form committees. And I'm saying right now that if we want somebody to serve on a committee, well, every year, maybe have an orientation committee to come up with a recommendation and say, this is what we'd like to talk about. You're welcome. There's other items here. If you have any questions, we'll look at exploring it. My goodness, you're only going to be talking about 1 or 2 years, probably. So this isn't that big a deal to keep us watching.
I agree.
To keep us from watching Texas and Baylor play basketball. So tonight. So I just think that it's important. But I think it's important. We've satisfied, we've got one, it's mandatory, but, and these are good points to start discussion when we have new members come on board. In fact, some of them are pretty good things that we might want as a board to talk about if we decide to have a workshop, which isn't mandatory either, but it's recommended. So I just think a lot of these things are good talking points. We got a lot on the board here. It doesn't mean you gotta do each one, but if, you know, and I like to digress just a little bit. Everybody on this board, they don't do it for coming and having an excellent meal and a $10 a meeting deal. I think they have an interest in serving their community and serving this institution. And I think that's what we've seen over the years. It wasn't mandatory. And I jumped in and learned stuff. I just asked questions. I called the comptroller, I called Jerry, I talked to any number of these, and said, what's this about? And I think that's good, but I also think we should be able to offer these things and not in a mandatory way. I mean, some folks may not have 3 days that they can spend to go do this. But if it's offered,
Yes.
in some form of it, and again, I think maybe form a committee to say, well, we're gonna have this. What's the hot spots? What would you like to know? You know, here's some topics we'll talk about.
Maybe we could say the TVCC new board orientation plan should include the following. And it not require the following,
I
but
just
should
think we'll
include
have-
the following.
We contain a variety of topics included, but not limited to.
There you go.
And-
Would that work? Would that work for SAC COC? I think it would. I think that's a good idea, Steve, that we could say it should, or it's not mandatory, but should possibly include the following list.
Here's an example of what an orientation would be, you know, be a combination, it includes but not be limited to these items. And I think before you have a new board member come on board, you form a committee at the time it's necessary and decide the policy and the policy of what you're about to offer.
Or the
And
topic.
if they don't want to, if they can't get away, or, you know, or they may say, I'm really interested in this, I think you make it available in some form or fashion and let them know it's out there.
I think if we put should in there, I think we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. So, I mean, I'm
But it's
I'm
not
good with that.
mandatory, it's just, you know, if for the new appointee or elected, this is for the benefit of them and.
Right.
We feel that these topics, and there may be others, that's why I say it's not limited to.
Yeah, I
It
think
comes
it's-
up over a period of time.
we can rewrite this and we can put that language in there so where it's not mandatory, it's not should, but it's may include the following topics. I think we can do that as long as we have a plan. Again, we just need a plan. And I think that would work. What'd you say, Kristen?
We need something in writing to.
We need something, and I think that would do it for us. As far as item number 2, are we okay with having the annual, a workshop annually as part of the plan for professional development for board members? Again, we need a plan. It doesn't matter what the plan is. Is that a problem? No? Okay. Would you like for me to rewrite this and bring it back to you in March? Are you good?
I think that's right on.
Okay,
track.
good.
But I want to get clear about that. You're taking out the 3-day workshop,
I'm taking it all out. I'm just saying could go to,
but you're taking out specifically 3-day workshop.
I'm taking the whole thing out, except I'm saying you could
Could include.
include how do trustees operate in a community college
I
atmosphere.
think that's perfect.
I have no problem with anything in there
Okay,
other than a mandatory 3-day deal. And if somebody wants it, give it to them, Jerry. mean,
I do. I have. I spent more than 3 days.
There are people that will serve on this board that could teach part of this.
I know.
Don't
you're
force
welcome
them
to.
Go through it.
I know.
And
Big
so,
grandfather.
Again, we're talking about new board members. No, we're talking
I know,
about,
but
yeah.
some of them can actually teach.
And we'd love for you to. I'd love for you to do
I
that.
don't want to, depending on what their background is. Everybody's got a different place in life. There's things that I can do for the board and for the college that nobody
I
else
get
can do. And there's people that things Terry can do,
Absolutely.
nobody else can do.
Well, I
And
will.
that's our skill set.
I will rewrite this. I will bring it back to you in March. I will send it to you in advance so that you can look over it. I'll make sure that you're good with it and bring it back to you in March. And then we can, I think we've decided the direction we want to go.
And you're leaving number 3 in.
Yes,
I just don't see anything wrong with
Okay.
that. I mean,
Okay.
again, leaning away from those you have to do this,
Yeah.
but that you will be requested to serve, et cetera.
right,
I think asking works better than telling.
Absolutely.
We've gone through all that, so.
yeah, I think so.
I'm good with all.
Okay.
The way it's outlined.
Is everybody else okay?
I'm good.
Okay, good. We'll go forward with it and I'll bring it back to you in March. Well, if nothing else, I'm very persistent. May not be too smart sometimes, but very persistent. Okay, Ray, we're good. We can move to the next one.
Okay,
Do we need a motion and a second to bring it back in March or?
We're tabling this.
We
one,
just
right?
table it. A motion to table this and
Okay.
bring it back in March.
okay. Jerry Stone makes motion to table it. Terry seconds that motion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign, motion carries.
No,
No,
I'm just voting no.
no, no, okay.
I'm a no vote.
One no vote.
One no vote.
All right, item number 13, consider and discuss personnel updates.
This is just our standard resignations, terminations that we've had for the last month. And then our new hires, the only new hire, all the new hires are replacements, except for what the board approved for us to do with a new position for the PC-land analyst. That was a new position that was approved by the board back in August, I guess, for the new year. All the rest of them were replacements. So I'd ask for the board to approve this personnel update. We just need the board to approve this personnel update.
Jerry makes a motion, Steve seconds the motion to approve the personnel updates. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign, motion carries. Number 14, we need convening into executive session. Do I hear a motion that we move into executive session? Jerry Stone makes motion, we move into executive session. Ron Day seconds that motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign, motion carries. Folks, we'll be back shortly. Okay, we don't
Is
really,
Ann the only one out there?
we really don't have
She
any.
didn't have any choice, or she'd have left.
We just have no action.
Okay, welcome back to the closed session, the open session. And at this point, I'll ask for adjournment. Dr.
I
Charles,
make a motion to adjourn.
all in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Ron Day second that adjournment.
Thank you, guys.
See you.